Okay.
Yeah, it's a pleasure being here with you, Chuck and the Sensei. This is my first time on the podcast and actually being on a podcast ever. So, Chuck, I want us to start off with, how did you get so involved? How did you become the community change maker that you are today?
Well,
That's a good tell. You got to write that down.
interestingly, Chima, my story is not that far from yours. Honestly, I know you were a student leader, and I know you want to do bigger and better things. My story started that way, and then got interrupted by the birth of children.
That'll do it.
That was my reality. On my last final in Russian Lit, I had my daughter Maya on my back, and my professor actually played with her while I took my final.
Wow.
That's so sweet.
But that desire to take care of those young ones made me go do things. Economics is my major. I wind up actually hustling mortgage-backed securities. It was before it was bad. Let me be
Before
clear there.
2008.
Yeah, it was way before that. It was interesting to use those learnings. Basically to handle large financial instruments. But that work was it was meaningful work for sure. It just wasn't the work I wanted to do.
Yeah. Not as people involved.
Yeah, it was. It's just selling securities. My path is mostly consulting.
For a working family, if you're a working person, it's much harder to be involved politically and in the community.
You know what's interesting about that? I was talking to another parent kind of recently about you don't call it sacrifice that we make for kids.
Mm-hmm.
You don't speak of it. My kids had no idea.
Yeah.
They didn't know what dad was dealing with to make sure that they were cared for and comfortable in their lives. And they had extraordinarily comfortable lives compared to mine. I grew up poor. We were so poor, we couldn't afford the other O and the R. We were just poor folks. We lived in the projects of St. Louis. Life was interesting and complex. The only bit of that my kids know about is when I took them back so that they could see where I grew up. So they understand dad's from story. What was my life like? And hopefully for them to reflect on what their lives are like in comparison without making them feel guilty.
Yeah.
Without
just showing them where you grew up.
Exactly. That certainly not every Black child has the advantages that they had. Certainly this Black child never did. I'm so proud of my kids. They're all amazing young folks who are just beautiful and have a lot of love in their heart. And I hope eventually, get an opportunity to work in the community as well.
Let's hear in San Jose, like with the homelessness crisis that we have, like we see people being swept up on the streets.
Yeah. Homelessness is not a crime. Being homeless is the crime. We are committing the crime. Mm-hmm. This is our community. These are all our people, period. Regardless of what state they are in, they are still our people. They're still our community. We had neighbors who lived in our cars next to our house. They were our neighbors. My wife looked after their car. If she thought somebody was going to take something out of a truck one day, she went out after them. She's like, "No, that's not yours." That very same man who had the truck would sweep the gutters. That's the trade. Your humanity is here with us. We share this space together. So it's not homelessness should never be treated like a crime. The only criminal part is that we as a society allow it to happen. That's the crime. Everybody has a story. Every single human has a story. And part of the podcast series I do, the Dying to Stay Here podcast, is,
I was just going to ask about that.
It's focused on Black life in our Silicon Valley. But it's also, I'm focused on narrative creation or clarifying narrative, where the victims don't often get to tell their story. the cop doesn't listen, judge doesn't listen. Nobody's listening to their story. And their story is not what we perceive often. I talked with Kiana Ward, who a young woman who was unhoused here due to circumstances. And let's be clear, there are as many reasons to be unhoused as there are people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's stuff happens, right? But what I really focused on is letting her take the narrative back. Mm-hmm. It's her story.
Agree.
Tell me what happened. Let's keep it so that you are okay and safe about it, that you can say what you feel without triggering, but this is your story. Here's a young Black woman, which living on the streets, which is extraordinarily dangerous, who has a master's degree in marketing from one of our preeminent universities, from NYU. Mm-hmm. She is not what you think she is. She does not fit into the narrative that other folks are using to criminalize homelessness.
There is such a big population of unhoused folks in the city who are, not trying to get that attention, not trying don't want it. But they're some don't even consider themselves homeless that live in the RVs.
Yeah. And actually, I living in an RV by force of economic conditions is not living in a home.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that's not it. And there are a lot of folks who live in cars and in places. Mm-hmm. And let's be honest, especially with our transition age youth, they hide.
Oh yeah.
Because they will be victimized if they don't. But they're out there. They don't want to be seen. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want anybody to know it.
It's just so crazy that we in the city of San Jose, where we know ourselves as very, progressive, leading the charge, against hate or discrimination or stuff like that. And, to really seeing the city take such a hard conservative stance on homelessness is really, I frankly find it, again, disturbing, but also it doesn't represent San Jose values. It doesn't represent who we are. It's not the same place that I grew up with. I've lived here for born and raised in over 23 years of my life. We should not be emulating Grant Spassky Johnson with the Supreme Court, the far right Supreme Court, or Donald Trump's towards a policy.
When I did the panel at Spotlight's, at Polity, somebody in the audience asked the question, how can 70 million people be wrong? There's got to be something right. And initially, when you hear that question, I didn't do the normal check I do. Mm-hmm. I never accept a frame as truth without clear evidence that it's true. And I made the mistake of trying to answer based on that frame. But I realized, I can tell you when millions of people are wrong. Nazi Germany. Look at these recent outcomes. You don't just take over a city's police force because you want to any day you feel like it.
Have you ever heard the phrase manufactured consent?
Yes. We have never needed a revolution of common sense. What we need to do is return to common decency.
Yes.
That's the point of all of this for all of us. Common decency is the thread that we unify ourselves because we are here for each other. Now, it's complicated. I get it. I get that, you don't want a city of unsightly homelessness. But I was at a town hall last Friday with Betty Ewan and Mayor Mahan, and she just offered it up. She said, you guys have 70 or so people who are chronically problems, who have lots of issues. Let's wrap around them. Let's bring everything the county has to bear.
She uses that phrase a lot. Let's wrap our arms around them.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's give them the services they need, and let's solve this problem. And who wins? Everyone. Yeah. That's common decency.
Well, one of the last questions I wanted to ask you, Chuck, was your podcast.
Yeah.
Tell us about what people could expect when they tune in.
So what you can expect is narrative change. That's the game. What you can expect is an honest, interesting story from the perspective of either someone with a lived experience or someone with a professional experience to talk about a specific topic in the range of problems that Black folks have here that is causing our disappearance. And make no bones about it here, this is a disappearance. Parts of it is actually a genocide in slow motion. When you look at the infant mortality rate and the maternal mortality rates here, that is a genocide in slow motion. And we're watching that. Those are the topics we'll be going through. And we will have honest, truthful storytelling from the perspective of people who know. Either they lived it or they work on it every single day.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, Chuck.
No, thank you, man. Chuck. I appreciate the opportunity. And thank you, Chima.
Thank you.
Yeah, looking forward to your future.
Yes. Yeah, it's coming right soon.
All right.
And this guy was at the city council meeting